Temporarily from White Mountains in the Shire, this is Daryl W. Perry, host of FPP Radio News for Wednesday, June 21st, 2017. Silver is trading at $16.48 per ounce. Gold is valued at $1,247 per ounce. Bitcoin is trading at 2.2 cents, and the average price of Bitcoin is $2,715. Antiwar.com reports over the past several weeks, U.S. military actions within Syria have been less and less centered on the Islamic State, with a handful of operations targeting Shiite militias in southern Syria and even shooting down a Syrian government aircraft over the weekend. This isn't just the U.S. idly getting into one-off fights in the course of a war they've already been fighting in Syria, but rather is reflective of a push by White House officials, with multiple National Security Council members looking at the Syrian war less as a fight against the Islamic State and more as a chance to pick a fight with Iran. The Pentagon has made clear they object, and Defense Secretary James Mattis personally rejected multiple proposals related to this. Still, attacks on Shiite militias whenever they get sort of close to a U.S.-backed rebel base and a public narrative presenting the militias as necessarily in league with Iran have found the U.S. heading down that path anyhow. This isn't a new battle. The Pentagon has been battling the CIA in recent years in a rather public fight over the war, with the CIA keen to make the war about regime change and by extension fighting Iran, while the Pentagon has sought to keep the focus on fighting the Islamic State. This is increasingly becoming a battle within the White House, as the administration's review of policies towards various different nations has included a review of Iran, and as well as other reviews, it seems to be leaning heavily towards picking new fights, and in the case of Iran, that fight is most readily fought in Syria. Since the early days of the Syrian civil war, there have been hawks viewing it as a potential proxy war against a key Iranian ally, and that view has only grown, which, combined with the Trump administration's general hostility towards Iran, is pushing the U.S. into widening their involvement in Syria.
For nearly 40 years, Roberts & Roberts Brokerage has been a trusted source for buying and selling precious metals like gold and silver. They also take Bitcoin for precious metal purchases and have permanently removed the minimum purchase amount for all orders paid in the digital currency. Call Roberts & Roberts today for knowledgeable advice on buying and selling precious metals and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 800-874-9760 or visit online at rrbi.co.
UPI reports the Federal Trade Commission said it will attempt to block the merger of the DraftKings FanDuel fantasy sports websites because it would likely establish a monopoly. The FTC on Monday said it had authorized legal action to block the merger because the combined firm would control more than 90% of the U.S. market for paid daily fantasy sports contests. The FTC said in a statement, DraftKings and FanDuel are each other's most significant competitor. At present, the two companies battle head-to-head to offer the best prices and product quality, including the largest prize pools and greatest variety of contests. The proposed merger would create a single provider with by far the largest share of the market for paid daily fantasy sports contests in the United States. The Attorneys General of California and Washington, D.C. will join the FTC in filing a complaint in a federal district court to seek a preliminary injunction to stop the merger ahead of an administrative trial, which is scheduled to begin November 21st.
Cell 411 is a free app for Android and iOS that replaces government-controlled 911. Cell 411 allows you to preset a group of friends or private organization to show up in an emergency. Cell 411 is a nightmare to the state because it proves their so-called services aren't needed. Cell 411 has had thousands of installs, and of course it's covered by the BIPCOT NoGov license. Cell 411, because your friends won't shoot you when you're in trouble. Without the government, who would build the emergency services? You and Cell 411. Get it today at getcell411.com. That's getcell411.com.
Reuters reports the parents of Michael Brown and the city of Ferguson, Missouri, have settled a lawsuit over his fatal shooting by a police officer in 2014. Brown's death triggered sometimes violent protests in Ferguson and around the United States, fueled by later police killings of unarmed men in other cities. It also helped spark a debate about racial bias in the United States justice system. Terms of the wrongful death settlement between Ferguson and Brown's parents were not disclosed. U.S. District Judge E. Richard Weber approved the settlement and ordered it sealed. Both James Knowles, the mayor of the St. Louis suburb, and Anthony Gray, the lead attorney for Brown's parents, declined comment. This has been FPP Radio News, online at fppradio.com.